you doing, guys? Today we're gonna put the box together, get it pretty much all situated. I'm gonna get the sides welded into place, and I'm also gonna have to kind of readjust the lid a little bit in order for it to fit, because this box is just a touch, like about a 1/16 of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch, somewhere right in there, longer, this distance, than the original wheel horse box that I made that lid for. It's just because, you know, I handmade it. I did, you know, as you saw in my prior videos, I bent it and basically put it together with a vise and a body hammer. So as you can tell, things appear to fit really well. You know, it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. Since the last video, the only thing I really did is I drilled a whole series of holes in the flange or the little bent area. And what I'm going to do with that exactly is that's where I'm going to spot weld the sides to the actual kind of box area. Now I have a lot of holes, and I know you're saying, somebody's thinking, why all the holes? Well, anyways, I'm going to be cutting and manipulating this box for wiring to go in and out. So I said to myself, I'm gonna just spot weld it together as much as I possibly can. So that way, when I cut it in places and drill holes in it in places, I don't have to worry about something being loose or flopping around, so to speak. So that's the reason for the number of holes in the flanges. But you know, my spot welds aren't going to be that huge. I mean, I'm not going to be like really burning this thing in hard. So I've situated the first side. Now I did number the sides. There's a 2 on this side, and then there's a 1 on this side, because what I did was I kind of fit a side to the particular side of the box I wanted to put it on. Obviously this one says 1. And I took my little square and made sure that my sides were square to the sides are square to the bottom. I made sure that this corner, or the corners in general, they fit fairly tight with each other, and that the bottom corners don't stick out too much. Overall, you can see it does fit pretty well. I'm really happy with this, and I just got a couple C-clamps in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my welder, and I'm going to weld like this one, and probably one in the center, and that will hold that side in place, and I could take the C-clamps off. I'll situate the second side in place, clamp it down, tack weld it into place. So after, I don't know, maybe 15-20 minutes, everything is spot welded into place. And as you can tell, the very bottom weld, or spot weld right there, was the first one I did. And I had the wire speed way too fast, so it just blobbed up. So I had to hit it with the die grinder and then kind of touch it up with the welder. But you can see the rest of the spot welds look pretty darn good. This is what the outside looks like, and you can see we have good burnage, meltage, penetration, whatever you want to call it, to the side. This corner could have been lined up a touch better, but oh well. I just hit this side with my die grinder and a fine wheel, and as you can tell, it just cleans up real nice. It's gonna look real good. I'm real happy with it. So what am I going to do now? I think I'm just going to clean up all these welds, clean up the inside real quick, and then we'll see how the lid fits. So after a little bit of die grinding on the sides, just to get rid of all the welds, make sure that they're fairly smooth, a little bit of tapping on the sides just to make sure that all the lines kind of line up the best that I can do it, basically freehand. Got the lid on it. The lid is really tight, so I am going to have to sand the inside edge of the lid in order to get it to fit nicer. But that fictitious battery look, I think I'm getting it. I think it's getting there. It actually does kind of look like a battery, I guess, if you would call it. But we're going to snake all those electronics into it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take my Dremel tool with the sanding drum, which you've seen in the prior video, and just kind of go around the inside of this lid in order to make it fit a little bit easier. I really kind of have to force it onto the box itself, and I really don't want to do that. I want it to kind of fit snugly, so we'll do a little bit of sanding on that. The other thing too is I made these marks in this corner because the lid, if I push on it, it'll sit a little bit crooked. So I got to add a little bit of fiberglass to the inside of that lid in order to make sure that it stays level. All right, so a little bit of fiberglass work left to do. Let me get that done, and then we can finally move on to the next step. So I took the battery tray out of the 1056, and that is where I had all of my basic electrical parts. You know, the starter solenoid, the rectifier, the fuse panel, everything was in that little battery tray. So I took that out, disconnected everything, obviously, unbolted everything. Took some measurements where these holes were, and I transposed them to the new box that I'll be using. I made all the marks on the outside just because it's going to make it easier to drill than trying to drill from the inside. But obviously everything is going to get mounted on the inside. One of the other things I need to do is I need to take my die grinder, which is right there with a very thin cutoff wheel. And I'm just going to cut the corners off the box. And the reason for that is this is where the main harness is going to go in. This is where my starter cable and the rectifier wiring is going to come out. Once I do that, then I'll drill the holes. I'll loosely mount everything in place. Basically, I'm going to mount them all in the same position that I had here. And then we'll take a look how it all came out. As you can see, I jumped the gun a little bit. I made all my cuts, cut out the corners, drilled all my holes, and then I decided to prime it. But the problem is I forgot that I need to put tack weld a couple tabs at the top so I can screw my lid down. So I got to kind of butcher what I've done thus far, which is kind of disheartening, but I don't know why. I jumped the gun. But in general, the box sits in this position. The relay that runs the fuse panel gets bolted on right there. The 4 bolt holes right here at the bottom that are in a square form, that's for the fuse panel. These 2 holes are for the starter solenoid. And then these 2 holes are for the rectifier. So the main wiring of the tractor comes in this side, the battery cable, the stator wires, and the kill wire come in through this hole. Overall, it looks pretty good. It's fairly smooth. I will have to do a little bit of like light sanding right here, right where I have a couple spot welds. There's a couple little hammer marks right there from the bend, but nothing too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand off some of the primer on the outside and on the inside. I'm going to figure out where my tabs to hold the lid on are going to go, and then I'm just going to break out the welder, spot weld them in place, and then I'll show you where we are at that point. All right, so the tabs are in place. They're drilled and tapped. So those will be the mounting points for the lid. The lid is right there. It's pretty much all sanded, and I primed it with some primer filler. So it's just about ready to be sanded out and painted. There's 5 holes drilled in the top of the lid. Take a guess at what those holes might be for down in the comment section. And I want to see if somebody can guess what I'm doing there with that. That'd be interesting. So take a guess of what those holes might be for down at the bottom in the comment section. And And we'll see if somebody can get that. As always, guys, that's it for this video. Next video, I will have this thing loosely put together. We'll talk about the paint scheme that we're going to go with. And we'll actually start mounting some of the internals in the box, so that way we can get it out onto the tractor ASAP. As always, thank you very much for your support. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. If you would like to, please share the video or any of my videos on my channel for that matter. That would be greatly appreciated. Give it a thumbs up if you care. And as always, have a very nice day.